What is up, YouTube? It is Drex and I am back with another video. So on my channel I'm often confused for being a Sony fanboy, which is cool because I am primarily on PlayStation. I'm not going to lie about it. But before PlayStation, I was the biggest Sega fanboy ever. I was always on the Sega consoles the most over anything. Sega felt like home to me. The Genesis was my first console. I love it and I still love it. I'm a big fan of the consoles, even the ones that failed. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about if they decide to ever make a comeback. So keep in mind, Sega has been out of the video game console market since 2002, so it's been almost 20 years now. So they will have a lot to consider. I personally think Sega could make a comeback, but I also believe they have the money for it as well. But they would have to consider a lot of the pros and cons, and I'm going to be honest and say this, I don't think they want to do it, because there's a lot to compete with. So back in 2002, let's consider a lot of things. People were still adjusting to playing online multiplayer games and online with consoles. On PC, it was nothing new really. Yeah, as long as you connect, as long as you knew what server to get in and whatnot. But now, keep in mind, PlayStation 2 was just introducing it. The Dreamcast had it for Phantasy Star games like Phantasy Star Online. And I believe too, Sega started with online, with the online interface with the Saturn, but I don't know much about that, so you have to probably just get more information on that. But anyway, it would have to be a lot they would have to consider, such as not only exclusive, making them coming out with exclusives. They'd also have to consider as well the online services that they would have to provide. They would also have to consider a game service as well. I hate to say it, I'm not a person that's big on game services like Game Pass and PlayStation Now, but those are hot. People, even Nintendo had to jump on that train and do that. People are subscribing to that for many reasons because they don't want to keep collecting games. They can't afford these games right away. So Sega had to take all those into consideration because that's where the gaming direction of gaming is going now. They'd also have to compete with cloud gaming as well. Look at the Stadia and Luna. People talk shit about those platforms, but you have to consider it as well. People are still supporting these and buying these. They say Stadia is dead. It's really not. So yeah, Sega will have to do a lot of competition. They have to compete heavily with that as well. Hell, with that being said, they were making their own sports games on the Dreamcast. And obviously, I don't know if too many people know why, but I'll give a brief reason why Sega lost their on the EA deal. Because EA is not going to ever... I don't think they would ever have a partnership with them again. It's almost been 30 years, but I'm going to tell you the reason why. When the Saturn was announced at E3 back in 1994, they also had said in the E3 that the console is available in stores now. So they not only did they announce it at E3, but the console was available the same day. So that pissed EA off, and they pulled all their games and said they would never work with Sega again. Sega had to put their licensing. Sorry, Sega had to license their games with other sports brands like NBA, MLB. I believe, and I might be wrong with saying that. I know it's definitely NFL, and they also had tennis players. Also had tennis players with the virtual tennis games that came out. Eventually, I think they lost the licensing, so they could never put the Williams sisters in those or Tommy Haas in the games. So, but anyway, yeah, they would have to consider a lot of that. They would have to find some way to license their own games, which is a good thing, which would kind of be cool because they might be able to actually compete with EA this time. Because, like I said before in my previous video, I believe it was the one I said about Xbox Game Pass being an option. EA has screwed sports games, so it would be kind of cool to see Sega compete with EA with those games. Because honestly, I enjoyed the 2K games that they had on. I'll call them 2K, but I enjoyed the sports games that they had available on the Dreamcast. I personally felt like those were better than the EA games that they were coming out with. So yeah, that is something also to consider as well. This might sound cliche as hell, but They would definitely have to make a good Sonic. I hate to say this, I hate to sound biased. The best Sonic game that has come out has been in the last 3 years, 4 years, has been Sonic Mania. I have not been too impressed with the with the previous Sonics we had in the past. Sonic Unleashed, I'll be fair about it. I enjoyed it, but I'm not. It was meh. Compared to the other ones, no. They would have to work their ass off with continuing the Sonic series and finding the right people for that. Another thing to consider as well is, even though they have their games on different platforms such as the Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation, they would have to work 10 times harder, I personally believe, to produce exclusives to compete against, especially PlayStation. But they would have to work like 10 times more if they are seriously looking to compete with Sega. I have to also say this as well. They would also consider porting over the arcade games onto the new console if they had it. Because Sega still does create arcade games. So yeah, that's something to consider. Sega's also been good with trying to bring the arcade experience home with their customers. So I mean, yeah, you see games like House of the Dead, like other light gun shooters, Virtua Fighter and whatnot. Well, the Virtua Fighter series is dead now, so they're no longer making those games, from what I heard. Apparently, if I'm not, please correct me in the comments. But they would have to consider a lot more things. It would have to be a lot to bring customers over. Like I said, personally, I'll be on that shit day one, without a doubt, and I'm pretty sure a lot of Sega loyalists will be on it as well. But it's a lot to like drag somebody in there, like someone from Xbox, primarily Xbox, somebody that's primarily Nintendo or primarily PlayStation. They would have to consider a lot of what's going on. So yeah, they have a lot of They would have a lot of homework to do over there. So yeah, I think about it. Sega could do it anytime. I think they could do it anytime they want to. But I think they're comfortable with the direction they're going in, making their games for multi-platforms. I also believe, too, that they are comfortable with the direction they're going in. At one point, Sega competed against everything. They were destined to take out Nintendo. They were destined to take out PlayStation. Unfortunately, PlayStation had to sink them underground because they couldn't compete. But it's, if they were ever to do it, like, I'm there. I'm going to be dead honest. I'm there. And that's me being a fan. This is a fanboy talking about it. But realistically, everything I discussed, that's what we will all have to keep in mind. Especially fanboys, Sega fans, we have to understand what they are going against. This is why it's important to not limit yourself to just one console, but to experience all the consoles and all the things that they have to offer before you make your judgment on what's trash and what's not trash and what it doesn't have to offer. Everybody has their own experience. Like today, shout out to Cloud Data Media. He put out a video talking about how Nintendo is just not for him. He doesn't like the Switch. And that's cool. I mean, I personally love the Switch. It's my secondary gaming device, but we all make the calls of what we think is best for us. DocDark1985 and TK9, they both love Xbox. Xbox works best for them. They both own PlayStation, don't get me wrong, but they get a better experience just playing on Xbox. Rome Rush, he prefers PlayStation. I prefer PlayStation over Xbox and Nintendo. That's my primary console. It works out best for me. It's convenient for both of us. So yeah, that's just one thing I just want to. We just have to keep in mind about what we do and how we go about playing games and whatnot. So yeah, that's all I just wanted to say. Other than that, this is Drex. I am out.